200 years ago, as much as half the Irish population slept under a thatch roof. It was waterproof, mouseproof, and many people had the skills to maintain it themselves. Sadly today, the numbers of houses with a thatch roof are rare. How rare is something that Westmeath County Council and Heritage Council would like to know, and have commissioned a survey of the county thatched housing. That survey is being carried out by heritage consultant Bronagh Lanigan.
We think there are approximately 30 thatched buildings left in the county, but it's really important that we find out exactly are there 30 left, what condition they're in, are they occupied, are they in danger of being lost.
Irishman Brian Kelly and his wife were looking for their dream home to settle back in Ireland with their young family.
We weren't looking for a thatched cottage, you know, we didn't really consider buying a thatched cottage, but when you come to this place and you drive in, all of a sudden you realise how special it is, and that was it for us. Whether we liked it or not, we had a project on our hands. As soon as we found it and we walked inside and we realised the relatively good condition it was in, that it was worth saving and it was worth keeping as original.
I'm not sure if they really appreciate fully yet what a gem of a building they've bought, because it's absolutely wonderful inside. There's some really nice examples of some vernacular furniture in here, and really some of the furniture is exactly what you would hope to find in a cottage like this. And so we have a lovely sideboard. We have a mirror above the mantelpiece and a lovely little decorative piece of fabric on the mantelpiece. And we have a press bed and a really effective way of storing extra sleeping space. You open up the door and inside you have a bed that folds down. And so you can imagine you'd have visitors, or it could have even been a member of the family who slept here every night. You pull down the bed, they sleep in it, and then when you have company and then during the day you need the space, you can fold the bed back up again. That's a really nice piece of furniture to have here in the house. I also like on the walls here we have a green kind of stippled effect, probably put on with a sponge, and it imitates maybe a wallpaper effect. So people, when you mention thatched buildings, just think they're a relic of the distant past in Ireland, but actually thatched buildings were really quite common up until probably even 40, 50 years ago. I met a man at another house recently here in County Westmeath, and he said to me, if you'd come about 30 years ago, you would have seen a lot more thatch here. And he could point out houses around him in his townland that had been thatched up until even the 70s.
Outside, there is evidence of an old profession laid on the ground. The hand-knotted roof bobbins, the hazel twisted scallops for pinning the straw, and all the other tools of thatchers Alan Grimes and Owen Murphy are laid out as after 10 weeks' work they are putting the finishing touches on Brian's new oat straw thatch roof.
Well, the thatch originally wasn't in great condition, so we had to strip it all back off to a base layer, and then we rebuilt with 16 to 18 inches of new thatch back onto it. So there was no real problems as such. Like it was in fairly good nick when we came, like, you know, but it was in need of rethatch, like, you know. This is autumn grown oats, so there's yeah. So it's grown in Athy in County Kildare. So the straw needs to be properly grown, so it's not brittle or anything like that. So you get last out of it, like, you know. I think Brian said this place is about 220 years old. I think it was built in the 1800s at some stage. So that's how long the original layer is up there. So still in good nick underneath, yeah. And there's turf sods laid over the rafters. So, and then the original layer is laid onto that, and then it's tied on with the tarred core. That's what it's called. It's horsehair and straw. So it's what you had a tool for making these, so they did them with it. Usually there's fatter ones now, and they twist one bit, and then they get another bit, and they twist the two of them together, and then put a bit of tar over it to hold it all together. But it's what it's called is a sugan rope. It's very old, very old. So they used to tie the first layers of straw onto the roof of this. They'd wrap them around the rafters and pull it back through out to the thatcher. And he'd fold it back then and again round through for the next bit, so he would. It's not actually cut timbers that's in the roof, it's old branches and stuff that they got the straighter ones right, and they worked them into the roof, and then it was laid over with sods then and tied on with the tarred core, yeah. So the way we have this one done with the rods on the top and everything else is kind of a signature that we've done it, yeah, with the cross rods and everything else, as you can see up on the ridge there, yeah, it's kind of, that's kind of our mark, so it is, which we've taken from Peter that we learnt off, you know what I mean, but it's a style from our area, like, so everyone kind of know that we've done it, like, you know. Yeah, there's loads of work, yeah, so ever since I started, rarely now, over the recession now, we went a little bit quiet, but in general, you'll always have work hatching, like, you know. So you have to be willing to travel for it, though, you know.
While work in general seems to be holding up for the thatchers, the prospect of survival of the thatch generally in Westmeath seems under threat.
I'm a little bit concerned. During this survey I've visited quite a few buildings and the thatch is gone. That's really disheartening. And in one day, in particular about 2 weeks ago, I visited about 4 properties and 3 of them had lost their thatch. So that was quite a difficult day. Probably the biggest reason for people losing the thatch is cost. It's really very, very expensive to thatch a roof, and prohibitively expensive for some families. So I think more targeted funding for thatch buildings probably is required, and greater assistance to help with finding thatchers, thatching material, and the cost is a big step. Also, I found that people suffered big damage to their roofs, and people who were living in the houses were elderly, and the family felt that it was a big burden for them to have to maintain this, and in 1 or 2 cases that was the reason they removed the thatch. But I do have hope, because I see people like the new owners here, Brian and his family, who have bought a thatch and are willing to take on a thatch building, and really they appreciate what they've got. So that gives me hope for the future.
It was, in the end, it was a really good thing to do straight off the bat, because there's so much love in the area for it that we've realised that all our neighbours, and they've all been so happy to hear that it's been looked after and that it's been bought by someone who is going to look after it. So I'm delighted with how it's turned out, and also happy that we've done it, because everybody's happy that we've done it, you know. It's this place, I don't know if you've heard any stories, but it was the old man who lived here, Pat Carey, was a keen musician, and he used to grow an acre of oats each year and have a threshing festival here. So there'd be 600 people here doing the threshing and then having the ceilidh after. And the locals all know it and they all love it, and there's a great history to the place, so they're all just so happy that it's going to continue, and that even that I'm a musician and that I'll be keen for that type of thing to happen has just been perfect, and it's been a perfect introduction, you know, so I'm delighted and really happy with it.